do things anyhow.
I see. Sarah, tell me more about the witness protection law.
Samuel, that law calls for the establishment of a witness protection unit to protect those testifying against corrupt people in court. But the government still dragging a feet to open the witness protection unit.
No, man. I hope the unit can open soon so we can feel safe to report corruption and talk about it in court.
If you still want to know more about the anti-corruption laws, you can reach Cental's Advocacy and Legal Advice Center, ALA, to report allegations of corruption or learn more about the fight against corruption.
I know Cental office on 22nd Street, Cental. I am on my way there right now. So, my Liberian people, let's join the fight against corruption. Report all corruption to Cental by dialing 4432 or text 0555 722 113 or email alac@cental.org.lr.
Let's thank the government and people of Sweden through the Swedish International Development Cooperation Agency (SIDA) for providing the money for the National Integrity Building and Anti-Corruption Program NIMBA for an additional 3 years, January 2024 to December 2026.
Liberia, our homeland, a future bright we see, with honest hearts and open hands for you and for me. But shadows creep and darkness hides where secrets like to stay. Cental steps into the light to chase those clouds away. Shine a light on every corner, clear and bright. Transparency's the guiding star to take us near and far. Accountability, the solid ground where justice can be found. Cental sings, Cental strives for a Liberia that truly thrives. From ministries to market stalls, from city streets to farms, we're watching close, we're asking all to keep us safe from harms. No more backroom deals and lies, no more corruption sting. With Cental standing by our side, a better future we will bring. Shine a light on every corner, clear and bright. Transparency's the guiding star to take us near and far. Accountability, the solid ground where justice can be found. Cental sings, Cental strives for a Liberia that truly thrives.
A pleasant good morning and welcome to another edition of the program Accountability Hour on this wet Wednesday morning in Monrovia. It's raining cats and dogs. It's been very, very difficult out there to get around. And yes, we're here this morning again to bring you another edition of the program Accountability Hour. This is where we hold our leaders accountable. We promote the culture of transparency, accountability, all geared towards ensuring that Liberia becomes a wholesome, functioning society. This morning we have Ama B. Johnson. He's the acting director for compliance at the Independent Information Commission. And yesterday, his organization, the Independent Information Commission, collaborated with Cental to organize a forum for government ministries and agencies to ensure that they are compliant with the Freedom of Information law and they are abreast of some of the things that are within the law. So we'll be talking about the program yesterday and some of the other interventions and the collaboration and the plan they have to do quite a lot to ensure that people have access to information, that the Freedom of Information law is widely available and accessible and people can take advantage of it. But before we do that, we will take this very short break.
Cental sings, Cental strives for a Liberia that truly thrives. It takes us all, both big and small, to build a nation strong, to stand for truth and give our all, and right where things went wrong. So raise your voice and join the call, let honesty take flight. Together we can break the fall and fill our land with light. Shine a light on every corner, clear and bright.
Welcome back to the program Accountability Hour, and as we stated, we have Armand Johnson. He's the acting director for compliance at the Independent Information Commission, and we've just had a program yesterday. It was a collaboration. It was, it's not the first time Cental has collaborated with a government institution, but that was part of multiple different collaborations that we've had with government institutions, all geared towards ensuring that we have a society that is free of corruption and that promotes the culture of transparency and accountability. But before we do that, before we turn to Amma, we just like to tell you about something that we have, which is our online portal that has information about corruption in Liberia. All of what you want to know about corruption is available on this online portal, and it's called our Corruption Case Tracker. In case you don't know what a corruption case tracker is or what our corruption case tracker is, it is an online repository of everything corruption. If you want to know allegations of corruption, you want to know the status or the statuses of those allegations, all of those are available on this portal, which is called Corruption Case Tracker. It's accessible via Google search. In case you have your phone or you have your laptop, you like to access the Corruption Case Tracker, just go to the browser, whether Google or whatever browser that you are familiar with. Just type cct.cental.org.lr. Again, it's cct.cental.org.lr. Once you hit that address, you will be referred to our Corruption Case Tracker. And there are a couple of allegations we have there on the tracker. We also have cases that have moved from allegations to prosecution. We also have other analysis that you may need to know in case you're doing a research about corruption. You would like to get statistics and some raw data or some very fresh data on what corruption looks like. You can find all of them here on our Corruption Case Tracker. So I would just like to, carry you through a couple of those allegations. There's one here that indictment has been June, and that is allegation of financial improprieties and acts of corruption involving officials of the Liberia Refugee Repatriation and Resettlement Commission. So that has moved from allegation to indictment. So we will just give you a few bars. We'll just give you a few bars of the allegation. It says LACC in its first quarter report 2025 noted that it has completed investigation into allegations of financial improprieties and acts of corruption involving officials of the LRRC in the repatriation of refugees from Ghana in the tune of US 100,000 and Liberia 1.2 million. So that is what is at stake here as it relates to this allegation. We're talking about 100,000 US dollars and 1.2 million. These are allegations. If we reach now to the state of indictment. So these people are presumed innocent until proven guilty. But we just like to throw it out here so that you can know what it was like and what corruption looks like in Liberia. We also have different allegations. Another one has to do with allegation of procurement fraud and financial improprieties involving officials of the Liberia Telecommunications Authority. And that is under investigation. That has not moved to indictment yet. It's still under investigation, as we have here on our tracker. So a summary of this is to say the Liberia Anti-Corruption Commission in its first quarter report 2025 noted that it has completed investigation relative or related to the 2023 special compliance audit of the LTA by the General Auditing Commission. The findings, according to the LACC, reveals that the LTA, or Liberia Telecommunications Authority, did not remit the GOL share, or the government of Liberia share, of accrued revenue. There was no evidence of a bidding process initiated for the hiring of a project independent evaluator for the LTA headquarters construction contract, and there was no evidence of a contract signed on the Liberia Digital Transformation Project with Tama Corporation and 231 Data Incorporated that implemented the data or digital transformation project. So yes, that's the nature of this allegation of corruption. Yes, it's on our tracker. You can go there and verify and get detail on that particular allegation. There's another one that says allegation of procurement fraud and acts of corruption involving officials of the Ministry of Post and Telecommunication. And to give you a gist of what this looks like, I would just attempt to open it and say LACC in its first quarter report noted that it has concluded investigation into allegations of procurement fraud and acts of corruption involving officials of the Ministry of Post and Telecommunications in the purchase of 3 buses valued at $85,500 US. So there are a couple of other allegations that you may just, access by just clicking or just going to Google and searching cct.cental.org.lr. Once you put in that particular information, you will be directed to our corruption case tracker, which is an online platform. It's available for you. You can do what you like to do. You can download the full case or summary. You can also go to case analysis. You can search by sector. You can search by jurisdiction. You can do a lot on that case tracker. Okay, so now is the time to talk to our guests. We'll now turn to Ama and say good morning to you, Ama.
Good morning, Blamo, and it's always a pleasure to be on the radio with you this morning.
How is the Independent Information Commission? Just give us a gist of what you're doing there.
The Independent Information Commission is progressively doing what it ought to do statutorily as defined in the Freedom of Information Law. We have a mandate to receive here and decide on all complaints and BD disputes arising on the FOI law. We also have a mandate of training and building the capacity of personnel of public bodies to ensure the proper interpretation and the application of the FOI law. Specifically, the past 6 months or so, less than 9 months now, the IC has been engaged in intensified freedom of information awareness, compliance, and record management training across government ministries and agencies with the hope, that they can be able to meet their compliance obligations as defined under the FOI law. So yes, we've been making a lot of progress, and we've been aggressively involved into several institutional training for the last 6 months, and we are up to that. And we're also preparing for the celebration of the International Day of Universal Access to Information. Adwa.
So tell us, for those who don't know, what are some of the things that you are involved with at the Independent Information Commission? What are what's your main thing? What do you do?
Part of my work is defined within the FOI law, Chapter 5, Section 5.2E of the FOI law, require the IIC to investigate, monitor, and promote compliance, as well as collect statistics associated with FOI. So my role over the past months since I took over as the acting director for compliance has been engaging ministries and agencies on their compliance obligations. So in fact, in some part of last year, the commission initiated an FOI audit on the 103 ministries and agencies, and we examined the institutions, and we realized that most of them were failing on their compliance obligations as provided for under the FOI law. And so part of the findings from that report was that most of the institutions were not aware of their obligations, and so therefore they could not, take concrete compliance actions to ensure that they are in compliance with the FOI law. So based on the findings, then the IC decided that we will initiate, a full-scale freedom of information awareness across several ministries and agencies in order to bring them up to speed on their compliance obligations, which will deepen public access to information, increase government transparency and public accountability. And so we started some part of March 21st. We started with the first training that we held at the National Transit Authority.
Okay.
Yes, and then we moved to the National Social Security and Welfare Corporations on May 2nd of this year. We also conducted training there for them. On May 26th, also we had a meeting with Cental, not Cental, but the Center for Media Studies and Peace Building. We had a good engagement in Buchanan, again as part of our FOI awareness. And then some part of June 23rd, we had another departmental and sectional training again for other institutions. And then on July 16, we also had an engagement with the Library of Intellectual Property. And the 21st of July, we had an engagement with the Bureau of State Enterprise. On the same 21st of July, we also had a morning section at the Ministry of Public Works. And then the 22nd of July, we also had a training at the Civil Service Agency on the freedom compliance obligations. On August 5th, we're at the AITB, the Agricultural Training Bureau. At the Agricultural Industrial Training Bureau.
Okay.
There again on August 7th, we were at the National Fire Service. And recently, we were at the National Housing Authority and the Liberian National Police. And then we moved the FOI awareness compliance. This time around, we decided that this will not only just be an FOI awareness compliance and record management training. Since we know that access to information is an anti-corruption tools, we decided that we'll work along, we'll build collaborations with CSO and partners to be able to have a more stronger engagement. So this time around, we work with Cental.
Okay, we'll come to that. We'll come to that aspect of your work with.
So I'm just giving an
Cental.
overview of some of the
Yes,
activities.
yes, I
and
know. I
engagements
mean,
that we've been having
you will come to
institutions.
details. You will speak more about your engagement with Cental later on. But I'd just like to, people out there may want to understand when you talk about compliance, FOI compliance. What are you actually talking about? What is FOI, and how does an institution of government becomes compliant with the FOI law?
Okay, so when we talk about FOI compliance, there are relevant provisions in the FOI law that require ministry and agencies to take specific actions in terms of enhancing public access to information.
Okay.
For example, Chapter 2, Section 2.1 of the FOI law calls for the establishment of a publication scheme, a widely accessible and user publication scheme. We're talking about having a functional website or a social media platforms where you are providing information on your core functions, your activities and programs.
Have you done a survey around that to see how many ministries have complied with that?
That's what I said. We did that was the compliance assessment that we did earlier this year.
Okay.
The total number of institutions at the time from the report shows that there were around 60 or 73 institutions of government that have functional websites.
Of
the 103.
Okay.
Yes, some of them had their they had websites, but we don't consider your website to be functional if you don't have it's not regularly updated.
There you go.
So you can have a website that is still carrying President Weah or President Sirleaf as President of the Republic of Liberia, or former past officials. They should be up to date. Okay. So that's why the FOI law. I'm just giving you some of the compliance indicators. Under the FOI law, Chapter 2, Section 2.6, also name categories of documents and that should be made available on your publication scheme. It talks about your budget online. It talks about your existing policies and procedures, rules and regulations available online. It talks about your material contracts. So when we're doing the compliance assessment, those are the indicators we're looking at to see whether you have taken these actions by making these documents available on your publication scheme.
Okay.
Yes, the law also requires you under Chapter 3, Section 3.6 of the FOI law to be able to appoint and designate a public information officer.
Okay, so let's come to the publication online. Of the compliance assessment that you've done of all the institutions you've engaged, have you seen an institution of government that is fully compliant with provisions within the FOI law, especially publication of budgets, publication of financial statements, having functional website, and all of those boxes are ticked? Have you seen an organization?
So when we did, that's why we said that the compliance assessment report also was not, the uptick was not good.
Okay.
That's why we are intensifying these engagements. If you look at the assessment report, all of the ministries and agencies, with the exception of the Ministry of Finance, no ministry or agency has the budget online.
Does the Ministry of Finance have their financial statements and transactions on your website as well?
So I will get to that specific detail.
Okay.
Let me start with the budget first.
Okay.
Most of the ministries and agencies, almost all of them, they don't have the budget available on the publication scheme as required under the FOI law. And that's why these compliance engagements that we're having, we are emphasizing on these things. Most of the institutions, I can tell you, they were not aware of the statutory obligations when it comes to making these documents available on the publication scheme. The law also says that they should also have, for example, the enabling legislation that, of these institutions, the act establishing them. If you check their website, most of them got it there. Now the service delivery charter is providing more information that the FOI law requires them to, make available to the public. On the issue of the budget, only the Ministry of Finance and Development Planning had a budget available online. All of the other ministries and agencies, no, don't have. That's why we're intensifying these engagements. The law talks about procurement contracts, material contracts, the contracts for the procurement of goods and services. If you have goods and services within your budget line that are subject to procurement contracts, the law requires you to have that contract available on your publication scheme so that we can see whether there's a procurement fraud. For example, if you publish the contract for the procurement of vehicle, maybe a Renault, and the Renault is around 25,000, and the contract is saying 75,000, the public can be able to know exactly whether this is a procurement fraud document, given the price of these, of the vehicle.
Okay.
So that is some of the things that but on the issue of the budget, only the Ministry of Finance and Development Planning.
Okay.
On the issue of the appointment of public information officers, they were around 26.
Okay.
But now, the appointed public information officers were people who were regularly designated to attend freedom information training.
Okay.
So what we decided to do is that we want a record in our system that shows that you represent the institution legitimately as the public information officer. So if you look at the past records, all the PIOs, there were no specific document or appointed letters from the minister who is the head of agency or the head of your agency appointing you to serve in that capacity. All we do when we send out invitations for training, you will always be designated to come and make representation. So this time around, we say no. If this person is going to be regularly, representing the institution on FOI, then you have to officially appoint them.
Okay.
So now their institutions are officially appointing the PIO. They will shock you to know that most of the institutions, if not all, with the exception of the Ministry of Information, Cultural Affairs and Tourism, they didn't have the internal review body established as required under the FOI law.
Okay.
But most of the institutions that we have trained in recent times have sent us our compliance form appointing both the PIO and establishing the internal information request review body. That body is a critical component of the feedback. So if a person requests for information at the ministry or agency and an officer within the agency deny the person the right to access that information, the person must have the right to appeal to the board The internal information request review body takes the final decision on whether or not the applicant has a right to that information or should be denied access to that information. That was not there. Now, another issue we also talked about was the issue of the annual activities, FY activities report. Under the FY law, chapter 5, section 5.3, says that all ministries and agencies of government are under statutory obligation to report to the Independent Information Commission on key following things: on the number of requests you received, on the number of requests you processed, on the number of and the reasons for your denial. And it's a whole lot of things that the FY law required them to report on.
Okay.
So most of them, they were not doing their work. They were not doing their compliance obligations.
Okay.
And we knew that two things: the lack of training was impacting them, the lack of awareness. So this FOI awareness and compliance initiative now is now bringing institutions up to speed.
Okay.
So I can tell you now that
Yeah.
we have several ministries and agencies that we have trained now who have appointed a PRO
Okay.
and have established their internal review body, and they are working along with the IT department and other relevant department within their agency to make sure that these documents under the FOI law that are subject to automatic publications are readily available with or without an FOI request. And that's why we engage in that.
You are the RRC. Are you leading by example? Do you have your budgets and others on your website? Do you have an active website?
So
as well?
let me just say to you that there was an administrative directive given to the controller
Okay.
of the Independent Information Commission that these documents should be made readily available. What we have been experiencing in recent times is that we had our technical difficulties with the website that is currently now on reconstruction. Yeah, the past administration, they didn't provide the necessary support that we needed to sustain, our internet access and our website hosting. So we lost our gov.lr domain. But this administration have already engaged the Ministry of Post and Telecom, and we are trying to retrieve it. But on the issue of that, the commission has been very clear. There has been a directive from the commissioner that we must lead by example. And so the moment our website starts to function properly, all of the necessary documents that we talk about is already right now. If you go to the Independent Information Commission, it is in the possession of our PRO.
Okay.
So it's readily available for you. But it's that when we get through with the technical details around our website, definitely you're going to have all of the information. In fact, at the ISA, we ain't got nothing to hide.
Okay. So another thing is educating the public about how to access information. What are the steps to follow? What are the kind of information to seek? A lot of people don't know that we even have a law that gives them the power to go and request information from government agencies and ministries. So what can you say to them?
So that's what we're saying. That's what we'll be asking for more funding from the national government to be able to, expand on our sensitization and outreach strategy. The Independent Information Commission has a department of outreach and sensitization. That department, in fact, recently just had a section with the Women NGO Secretariat, Wangoso, on women access to information. Recently, again, they were in the maternity, I think, in the Barnesville Estate, not in Barnesville Estate, in one of the estates, recently with their ongoing sensitization and outreach engagement. Yes, we've been having some of these series of engagements in the county. Remember, I told you this year was in Bond County, was in Grand Bassa County, but we're under the support umbrella of the Liberia Media Empowerment Project that is being implemented by Center for Media Studies and Peace Building, CIMEX. So we've been able to have some of these engagements on our partnership with other civil society organizations, but we need additional funding from the government, increased budgetary allocations for both compliance and outreach, because they are the two major departments responsible for the visibility and the workings of the commission.
Okay. So let's go to the the collaboration with Cental. Yesterday you had this forum. I was there at the Civil Service Agency conference room.
Yeah.
Tell us what that was about.
Okay, initially when we started this training, we did 20 ministries and agencies within Central Monrovia, right here around the Capitol Hill, and all of the ministries here. But we decided that we're going to move to the ministerial complex. And when we go in there, we're going to make sure that we're targeting all of the institutions that are within the ministerial complex. Because CSA had their training first, we decided that CSA will be in the neutral venue to hold the rest of the 5 ministries that are within the ministerial complex. So we had the Ministry of Labor, the Ministry of Commerce, the Ministry of Gender, the Ministry of Agriculture, and the Ministry of Education. And we had 10 strategic representatives in senior management positions that was part and parcel of that training yesterday. That includes the Deputy Minister for Administration, that includes the Director for Procurement, the Director for Human Resource, the Director for Communication, you had all the departmental and sectional heads from the 5 ministries that were in person yesterday.
What were those ministries? You can name the ministries?
Yeah, the Ministry of Gender,
Okay.
Children and Social Protection, the Ministry of Education, the Ministry of Agriculture, the Ministry of Commerce and Industry, and then, that's 5 of them. All 5 of the ministries, and the Ministry of Labor. So we all had that engagement yesterday in the Dr. C. William Allen conference room. And we are very grateful to Dr. Josiah Jokia, who have said these doors were open to us. And yes, yesterday he affirmed it, he demonstrated that. And so this training was basically to promote FOI compliance, integrity standards, combat corruption, and complementarity among integrity institutions, enhance complementarity among integrity institutions, as well as, FOI law as a conduit for good public service delivery. That's why we had that engagement. And that's why we partnered with Cental. And we also brought in the Office of the Ombudsman to be able to present on the code of conduct for public officials and employees of the government as part of the way of ensuring that government officials and employees are up to the ethical standards as provided for under our laws, because it's part and parcel of integrity building.
When you say you partner with Cental, how did it look? What does Cental do?
So when we say we partner with Cental, as our collaborating partner, decided that they will provide funding to be able to facilitate us, holding these kinds of engagements. And there are 2 separate training. We have this one is for the ministerial complex. We have another one that is coming up early in the month of October that will also be targeting the Bureau of Concession Internal Audit Agency, and as well as the Commission on Disability. Yes, we'll also be holding a section with them in the coming weeks regarding the scene FY awareness and the compliance, integrity building, anti-corruption training.
What are some of the feedbacks you got from the training yesterday?
The feedback, I was really impressed with the special remarks that were made from our guests. We had Councillor Alexandra Zoe from the Liberia, the executive chairperson for the Liberia Anti-Corruption Commission that was there yesterday. We had the Deputy Minister for, the Acting Minister for Ministry of Information, Culture Affairs and Tourism, currently Honorable Johnny Takpa, who was also there. We had the Honorable Councillor Professor Finlay Wakanga, the Chairman of the Office of the Ombudsman, was there yesterday. We had, it was wonderful, and my takeaway was some of the statements, some of the comments that were made. For example, Councillor Alexandra Zoe was able to, emphasize on the importance of access to information as an anti-corruption tool. Nobody had been very explicit in, deliberating on access to information as a corruption fighting tool, like what Councillor Alexandra Zoe did yesterday. And I was very impressed with that. Also, I was also impressed with Councillor Finlay Kanga. He also referenced some of the FOI law in the Code of Conduct. He mentioned Chapter 3, Section 3.6 that calls for openness, that states that all public officials and employees of the government of Liberia shall be as open as possible regarding all decision and action he or she takes, and shall give reason for taking this decision and release information consistent with the FOI law. And then he came back again to Chapter 6, Part 6.3 of that very same Code of Conduct to say that the FOI law, or the Code of Conduct also says that public officials and employees of the government of Liberia should not divulge classified information as provided for under the FOI law, and he summarized it with his reference to Part 4, Section 4.2 of the Code of Conduct that says that all public officials and employees of the government of Liberia should obey all lawful instructions, obey all laws, all lawful instructions, decisions, and actions and policies of the government, of the Republic of Liberia. And I was impressed with that.
Okay, you're listening to Accountability Hour. This program is produced by Cental, and this is where we hold our leaders accountable. This is where we promote transparency and accountability in Liberia. We have this morning our guest from the Independent Information Commission. He is Ama B. Johnson. He's responsible for compliance there at the IRC. And IRC is about ensuring that people have access to information. And if he's responsible for compliance, it means he has a lot of work to do. This is a turn now for you out there to call. The numbers are 0555-995-995 or 0777-700-995. These are the numbers to call in case you are interested, in case you want to participate. I think I'll take this person. Good morning.
Yeah. Good morning. Good morning to your studio guest.
Go ahead.
I'm passing command and acquire you on the canopy of the Good Government Initiative and so on think tank. But also being in the background advocating for the common people, is showing that the resources of the country benefit the vast majority of the people. But let me get it out there to the folks from Cental. Yes, Cental have been doing a good job when it comes to putting our public official feet to the fire.
Okay.
These are people that manage our resources, so we should be very concerned about how they expend our resources. So thank you so much. Our institution looks forward to collaborate with them in advancing transparency and integrity accountability in the Liberian society.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And yes, you two can put in your concerns. I think we can have issue with one of these lines. But yes, I think you can try. I don't know which one of them. But 0555 995 or 0777 700 995. I think we have another person. Good morning. Okay. Yes, good morning. Good morning. I think we lost that person. The number that is active now is 0777 700 995. We have some issues with the other line, so you can call 0777 700 995 and be live on the program Accountability Hour. Now, let's go back to you, Ama. Tell us about some of the information that can be readily available for anyone to access, or the ones that are bad. Give us, a picture of what that looks like.
So let me just emphasize on the kind of information that the public will not get if a request for information was made. And the FOR law has been very clear on chapter 4, section 4.2. They say information in relation to national defense, security, and intelligence, where the disclosure of that information will cause substantial harm to the defense and the security of Liberia, or will divulge matter that has been communicated in confidence by another country to the country, then the information has to be exempted from disclosure.
Can you give an example of that?
So, for example, if Liberia was at war, and then somebody comes and asks you, they want to know the manpower capacity of our army to protect the territorial integrity of this country.
You cannot get that.
You cannot get that kind of information. You cannot ask the DEA to provide you give you a full operational plan of the activities of the DEA in terms of raiding of ghettos and other areas. They won't give it to you. That kind of information won't give it to you. So the law says that any information that by the disclosure will cause substantial harm to the security and the defense of the country.
Okay, let's take this person. Let's try this person. Good morning.
Good morning.
Let's hear you quickly.
Okay, thank you very much. The voice remains Sidiki Moza Musukula Dori. I'm joining you from District 17 this morning.
Go ahead.
All right, thank you to our studio guest and the mayor from Cental. But there are two concerns. Number one has to do with how Cental do their reporting when it comes to the gender-based violence advocacy. Like for instance, we have a recent situation in the country where one of our government officials was alleged raped raped a 14-year-old girl. Up to now, as issue, we are not getting any substantial information about it. Secondly, the government of Liberia is striving to do everything possible that the Liberian people can live in the best country or maybe the best of the economy. Now, gasoline prices drop and rest prices drop. So how do they make their reporting so that it can reflect to the government interest, or to tell all the Liberian people that gasoline price drop, or the Liberian people did feed the impact when it comes to transportation? We want to know how they do this reporting. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think that was.
So as I was also
yes, go ahead.
Yes, I was giving you detailed information concerning information that the public will not get, even if they ask for it. That's what I was talking about. Now, I also talk about ongoing criminal investigation. The FOI law is very clear on chapter 4, section 4.3 of the FOI law. The law says that whether the disclosure of the information will hamper an ongoing criminal investigation or will reveal the identity of parties assisting an ongoing investigation, then the information must be exempted.
What is an example of that?
For example, if you had a criminal in real light who was arrested as a result of the community support, maybe the chairman of the committee identified him, and the police were able to identify his hideout, and he was apprehended. The police cannot come and tell the criminal or the suspect in custody that we were able to capture you as a result of this assistance from the community chairman. What happens if the man has an extended branch of his criminal enterprises in the community? You could be targeted. So the law is saying that the police or whatever, security sector should not disclose information in an ongoing criminal investigation until not just, but the identity of parties assisting in an ongoing criminal investigation. Whether disclosure will hamper the investigation or will reveal the names of parties involved, then the law requires you to keep it on the exemptions. But there's a rule on exemptions. Okay. The law says that when the harm to be created by the disclosure is greater than the public interest in having the information disclosed, then the information has to be exempted. That means you can't disclose it.
Can I go to the Ministry of Justice, for example, or maybe the Ministry of Finance, and I request the salaries of everyone, including the minister, to know what's the disparity like? Do I have a right to do that?
So let me just the issue of salary, right? And under the FOI law, salary is not considered as an unreasonable disclosure of personal information.
Okay.
Right? I think what will constitute an unreasonable disclosure of personal information is the bank details that sometimes come along with the payroll domain.
So it can be disclosed. That's the point.
You can. What I'm saying is that you have a right to know what a public official is.
Okay.
Making in terms we rendering services to the government library, and the government library pay for that services. Okay. So the public has a right to know. When it comes to salary, when it comes to knowing employee salary, that's not under the exemptions of the FOI law. And any law that is inconsistent with the FOI law will have to bow to the FOI law under the Freedom of Information Act. So I'm saying when people request for payroll, all you need to do is to remove the personal bank details that are always associated with the payroll, and remove it because that's unreasonable disclosure of personal information. Giving people bank details as well. But in terms of how much the person make or how much this position, what is the salary compensation for this position, the public has a right to know. The salary is not only just a sound to you. If you have dismissed and another person come in, they still make that same salary. So that's it.
So when you remove the bank details, you should not play with the figure. That's in essence.
No, there should be no figure manipulation.
Okay.
There should be no, because even under the FOI law, to alter a document is a criminal offense under our FOI law.
Okay.
And yes, you can do that. You can alter. In fact, it's alteration or falsification or manipulation of data is a crime. You can do that, right? But sometimes people are very protective of the salaries and what have you. But we need to know how much you're making to find out whether the government is actually paying you based on our standardized payment system, based on our Decent Work Act, And you understand me? There are payments, there are thresholds, there are pay grades, and so forth. So how do we know whether you are operating in compliance if we can see what you're doing?
So in
salary
case
is now one of the exemptions of the FOI law.
in case someone is denied of an information, what are some of the processes that they should follow to get redress?
So if you are denied the right to access information, first the FOI law says that the institutions have 30 days to respond to your FOI request. So if the institution does not respond to your FOI request within 30 days, you can ask for an internal review. An internal review is to say, I've written the institution, I've made my request, and yet I've not gotten a feedback. I'm asking you to take a look at that. That is, and we call it muted denial. When you don't respond to somebody's request for information, it's treated as muted denial. And the person can request for internal review. And after 30 days, even if there's no response after the 30 days of the internal review, the person can file a complaint with the Independent Information Commission. And then we will cite the parties to appear and to give reasons why. Because under the FOI law, you have to acknowledge request. The FOI law talks about acknowledgement. You have to acknowledge requests. Acknowledge the requester if request for information under the FOI law. And the law also asks you to advise them and tell him the time you make the information available to him. If you don't have it, the FOI law provides you the opportunity or transferring that request within 15 working days or within 15 days as of the receipt. If you don't have it and it's with another institution, the law says you can transfer the request with notice to the requester. Not the requester, but the request to the... So that's the law.
So this law has been passed in 2010.
Yeah.
Have you been able to understand or to do an analysis to understand as to how many requests have been, made since the passage of this law? Are people really taking advantage of the FOI law, or is just that there and people are just sitting idle?
So that's what we're saying. It is the report, the FOI status of implementation report, that's supposed to provide the detailed information around the number of requests that have been filed with the government.
You have that already?
No, but you can get that report if the ministry and agencies are now filing their report to the Independent Information Commission. And that's why these compliance initiatives that we're having is to we have a FOI reporting template that we're going to be sharing with all the appointed PROs. Because we need to have a data. That data will tell us the number of requests that have been filed with the government of Liberia. We can tell you the total number of requests that have been denied. And we can also tell you the reasons for denial. We can also tell you that statistical data. It has to come from all of the ministry and agencies that are subject to the FOI law. So where they are not providing the information to the Independent Information Commission, then it gives us difficulty in providing an accurate data and statistics on the implementation status in the country. And that requires us to do that. Under the FOI law, the Information Commissioner, in his annual report to the National Legislature, supposed to provide a status of implementation report. And that report is a compilation of all of the agencies' report on the number of requests they receive, process, deny, and transfer.
Okay, but what do you have in terms, as part of your law, to sort of ensure that people are compliant, especially government ministries and agencies?
The first thing is that the IC is almost like starting over, right? So we're in the awareness stage.
Okay.
You can start enforcement. You can start compliance and enforcement if people are not even fully aware of what the law says they're supposed to do.
You've been around since 2010.
Yes, being around is not a justification that everybody know what the FOI law says. Okay. So if we were around and we had the kind of adequate support that we need and created the kind of awareness with all of some of the ministries and agencies, this is the first time they have seen us. This is the first time they have heard about even the Independent Information Commission. You understand me? So we think, let's conduct this freedom of information awareness across all government ministries and agencies. Then when we come to compliance enforcement, you can't say I'm not aware, because ignorance of the law, even though it's not no excuse, but at least as the benefit of the doubt, you have been trained, you are knowledgeable of the FOI law, we teach you the interpretation, the application of FOI law, and you know what your compliance obligations are. Then we can hold your feet to fire to comply. If you don't do that, we have a statute where we can impose penalties and fines as provided under our FOI law.
Okay. And
we can also ask the court to compel you to do that, because it's under the FOI law, you are required to do that. So there are provisions in the law, in our statute, that gives you the authority to compel institutions to perform their function. I don't know what is the rate of Madamos, I think there should be another rate that if we have to get the judicial actions to ensure that institutions of government are in compliance with the law, we will do. But we also have our statutory power to do that.
Okay. So I mean, we already out of time. We just like to get back to you to get some few or parting comments. What are you planning to do? When do you intend to have your next engagement, collaboration with Cental? Tell us, all of those in a minute.
We first thing, the Independent Information Commission has asked that he extends his thanks and appreciation to Cental for this partnership and this support, as well as to all of our guests who turned out yesterday and was able to make a very solid case, not just for access to information alone, but for the entire transparency and accountability sector. And I want to note something that the acting minister of information said, which is very important. He highlighted a few things that I jotted down, and I think it's very important for me to ask. He asked for budgetary support for the Independent Information Commission's activity. He also emphasized on interagency collaboration and complementarity in advancing freedom of information and combating corruption. He also appealed to Cental to expand, their support for compliance initiative for the IC to reinforce the culture of openness and accountability.
Okay.
And he called for the passage of the Personal Data Protection Bill that is before the legislature. So we just want to thank all of our partners that have been supporting us. We look forward to increased budgetary allocation this time around this budget year, that we see the IC more visible, not just in Monrovia, but in the counties, so that people can also be able to use the FR law to hold local county authorities accountable for the leadership and the stewardship.
Okay, thank you very much. That was the voice of Ama B. Johnson. He's the acting director for compliance at the Independent Information Commission, and he was here talking about some of the efforts that the RRC is making to ensure that people have access to information, and Cental is sort of collaborating with them to achieve that, because it's part of what we do. We are promoting transparency within Liberia, so we see that to be something that we can do, to collaborate in whatever way we can to ensure that we promote the culture of accountability and transparency in Liberia. And that's all the time we have for this edition of the program, Accountability Hour. We'll be back here next Wednesday, God's willing. Until that time, my name is Edward Blamo. I've been your host, and as well, I'm responsible for media and communications as Cental. Until next Wednesday.